Welcome. It's Facts You Don't Know. If it's your first time here and you want to find out new facts that will definitely make you smarter and more, and first make sure to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss anything.
2-year-old mother and father die within 12 days of each other. So his brother does the unexpected. Someone that you wholeheartedly love, adore, and respect was just handed a death sentence, and you were handed front row seats to watch it unfold, helplessly. I never imagined my barely 50-year-old father would die, even when he was given his death sentence. I still truly didn't believe it would ever happen. My dad dying just doesn't happen to people like me. I was in denial until about 12 hours before he took his last breath. This past week, I was walking through the grocery store and saw a mom wearing a shirt that said, "I'm so crafty, I make people." She noticed my tribe of 5 and we joked that I needed to buy that shirt too, especially after mentioning I was expecting another in April. We chatted about those little human armies we are creating, how we have no idea when we will feel done having children, and how much we love this job we've signed up for. After our conversation, we bowed goodbye with a salute to keep on being awesome mamas. I knew then that I wanted to make this little phrase on my letterboard at home and hold it alongside my growing baby bump. I figured it would be a cute little addition to my expanding belly and people would get a kick out of it. After all, this is the 5th baby I've been blessed to carry, even though this is actually child number 6 for us. My plan was just make a silly sign about my reproductive system, but heaven had different intentions in mind. When my 6-year-old daughter got home from school, I bribed her with Halloween candy to take a few quick pictures outside of me holding my sign. She is actually getting really good at his whole picture taking thing, as well as enjoying the special treatment to do so. She would have done it without the candy, but I was trying to sweeten the deal here. She stood on the bench and took a few pictures before I approved of one. It was a tad windy this afternoon, so the wind had blown a little piece of my hair from one side of my head to the other. It wasn't a huge detail, but, it was enough for me to request she take a few more. I showed her the hair and we laughed at how silly it really did look. So I told her if she noticed anything else like that, to let me know and I'll fix it. My dad looked like an 80-year-old man within a matter of months. We all wonder what our parents will look like as an elderly man or woman. I experienced the change so quickly that I remember sitting there thinking, this is exactly what he would look like if he ever lived long enough to see his great-grandchildren and maybe even great-great-grandchildren be born. This 50-year-old man who all of a sudden looks like he's 80. It's not enough to just take one of the most important people away from me, but it also needs to change his physical appearance so drastically that I can barely even recognize him. My dad stopped eating altogether around a month into his diagnosis. He couldn't even stomach the thought of it. I tried so hard to feed him his favorite meals, but he would look me in the eyes and just beg me to stop offering it. Here I was giving him a chance to survive, and he physically could not even try. He lived off protein shakes, Gatorade, and eventually TPN feedings. He was so skinny by the time he died that the bones in his back protruded out of his frail skin and his biceps were as big around as my wrist. During one of our last hugs, I laid my head on his bony chest to feel his heart beat more slowly than mine did. It was a surreal moment. That body was so foreign to me. It wasn't my chubby dad's chest I had known my whole life. This one was cold and unfamiliar, but yet the love and passion within the embrace still felt the same. I would spend hours and hours with my father. In a 24-hour period, we would only be able to visit with each other for about 3 hours total. Most of the time, he would just fall asleep mid-conversation. He would be saying a sentence and then just doze off. Sometimes he would wake back up 10 minutes later and ask, "I fell asleep again, didn't I?" The time in between sleeping would be when I would try to say as much as I could. I'm thankful now that I was able to say everything I wanted and that I was able to have a proper goodbye with him. Not everyone gets that. Imagine pain being so strong that breathing is unbearable. So I had to back up and advocate for him even when I didn't exactly know how. I called nurses and doctors at all hours of the night asking what I could do, begging someone to come to the house so they could see for themselves. I would sing to him while he moaned, falling back on my own motherly instincts. I would rub his head as he tossed and turned from the agony, and tears would silently fall off my cheeks as I gave my best "it's going to be okay" phrases over and over. I had to be brave in the most terrifying time in my life, and I hated every second of it. The one who taught me to talk and helped me with my homework. This man can no longer say a single word. I could physically see this man, but he would never tell me he loves me again. His eyes are opening and closing, but he will never say my name again. I can hear his breath exhaling, but he will never respond to Dad or Papa, Grandpa again. All communication from his end is gone. I could talk and talk to him all I wanted, but he would never respond to it again. It finally got so bad that I was begging him to go to heaven. I could even watch it anymore. How could he endure any more of this? This isn't living. This is just pure and utter hell on earth. I just wanted him to be better. The only way I knew that that was possible, he had to leave me. The thought of him continuing in this life like this was 1,000 times more heartbreaking than the thought of living without him. I thought to myself, I can live 50 years without him before I can watch 50 more minutes of this. I told him I would be okay. I told him that I gave him permission to go. I whispered in his ear that I loved him, that his grandkids all loved him. I told him he was free from this life and that so many people were waiting for him on the other side. I spoke out loud, asking my deceased grandma, his mom, to please grab his hand and take him up. I kissed his cool forehead, knowing it was coming soon. Then I walked to the kitchen to eat some lunch. I came back 15 minutes later with his next dose of medication. I walked into a room with a man whose chest was no longer rising and falling. I cried harder than I have ever cried before, draping my body over his.
Thanks for watching. Please like and share the video in social networks. We'll be right back to you as fast as we can.